Very good evening, welcome one and all. I hope you've got some dads and possibly even some granddads with long memories and long football tradition in your family, because we've got a guy here that, okay, I remember playing, and in fact I remember covering, I remember interviewing, and it's a great pleasure to me that he has graced us with his presence here in the studio tonight. He was one of the legendary footballers in Sheffield's rich football history, particularly for those with a blue and white persuasion, though he did actually cross the city. Some people have chosen to forget all about that. He played for Sheffield United, but principally he's remembered as a Sheffield Wednesday player, and most of all for the events of Boxing Day in 1979. But let me tell you, this guy has also played for 15 other football teams. I've got a long list in front of me here of exactly who they were, and his final ever appearance was with my team, Chesterfield. And I've got a complete blank about that. It was his final league outing. I think that was way back in 1987. Yeah. Terry Curran, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to the studio yet again, and to Andy Giddings, the sports editor of BBC Radio Sheffield, who can bring us right up to date with what's going on now. So we've got this balance on the programme. First half, we stick in the now as much as we can keep him in the now, and he's got one or two things on his mind he wants to say. In the second half, we can reminisce and stray. But before we do all that, Owls fans will know this guy more than they think. The younger ones will know him more than they think, because what's that song that's played, particularly after Wednesday of one at Hillsborough, booming out over the tannoy? Come on, sing us the opening bars of it. Come on.
I can't sing it, Alan. I forgot the words.
Never. Well, it's easy. Singing the blues.
I still can't remember the words of it all. I remember when
I never felt more like
singing the blues. The Wednesday win, United lose, but we never put that in. That's what they wanted me to sing about, and in my day we had a lot more trouble of fans, so that's the reason why I wouldn't put those words into it, you know. But no, they were great days, and
could you sing before that record, and have you done any singing since?
No, I've never sang before, never sang afterwards. Alan Wood, who was in the Jimmy James and the Vagabonds, wanted to do it, and I still think he's getting royalties from it.
And you're not?
No, I'm not.
And you're not? But it's very catchy, and the studio work must have been excellent, Andy, because he sounds quite good at it.
It does, yes.
I mean, that was recorded on the back of the 1979 what's gone down in folklore as Boxing Day Massacre, in which you only scored one goal, to be fair, but you actually created two of the others.
That's right.
Right, okay, we're going to go stray and go back a bit later on. Andy, welcome to you. I'm going to get Terry's views in a minute, but I mean, you've seen, there's my pen rolling off the table. Thanks, TC, for replacing it there. You've seen the Owls and the Blades both in recent days.
Yeah.
Let's kick off with the Blades, because, okay, it's more of a Wednesday bias on the programme, so I'll admit it straight away. 4 goals and 4 goals disallowed against Port Vale. Never ever happened. I'm looking back, and I don't think anything like that's ever happened.
No, it felt at the time that it was extraordinary. Certainly the John Fleck offside decision was harsh. The others, debatable, and it would have been extreme had the referee have got them all correct, because it must have been sort of minute distances to get them there. But United were excellent. It's almost the international break has done them a power of good. They've come back after the international break, and the way they dealt with Port Vale, a side Sheffield United have at times over the recent years struggled against, was superb to watch. And the type of football that they were playing was outstanding. As all Sheffield United fans will know, it's a back 3, a midfield 5, and then Sharp and Doan up front. The central 3 in that midfield that day were superb from start to finish, and they kept going. And as you rightly say, 4 could have been more because of the decisions, the offside decisions, but they were still chasing for more when they had their 4th, when the game had long since been won. So that's been great to see. They're very much in contention now. I was doing it anyway, but the match against Bradford on Saturday is exceptionally enticing, because they've had a great start to the season too. And you just feel that Sheffield United have an identity again, which is something that can't always be said over the past 12 months or so. very much a work ethic instilled in them by their manager Chris Wilder and Alan Nill, who they've done an exceptional job down there, and the grounds for optimism are great.
As a by the by, John Moss is the referee for this
Yeah.
game. Those who followed John Moss in the Premier League, and he's been at the centre of a lot of controversies this season and last, will hope that nothing involving him spoils what should be a really good Yorkshire derby.
Well, indeed so. And Chris has had a minor Mourinho moment this morning by talking about the fact that, and it's not a bad point to make. I mean, too much was made of that anyway. I mean, he only stated the obvious Mourinho then anyway. But Chris has basically said, look, I hope the referee appreciates the fact that this is a Yorkshire derby with all that may entail, two very confident and informed sides. If things get a little close to the bone at times, just appreciate it for what it is.
Well,
if they go over the line, fair enough. But
Let's swing back one here to Terry, because there's an obvious difference between the approaches of the two managers in Sheffield football, partly because one is foreign, Portuguese, Carlos Carvalho. Everybody greatly respects him and what he's done at Sheffield Wednesday. And one couldn't be more English and more Sheffield if he tried, and that's Chris Wilder. And the continuity of Sheffield United and what they're doing, they're going in with the same team where possible. He's not looking to change it and squad. He could squad rotate. He's got enough there to do it.
Yeah,
he's not looking to do it. Quite deliberately, you've earned the shirt, you stay in, whereas Carlos Carvalho is totally the opposite. Well, which do you favour, Terry, looking at it from outside?
Looking at it, managers look for continuity. So if you're playing the players on a regular basis and the team's doing well, why change it?
Yeah.
It gives them that confidence. If you get a team what's probably lost on the Saturday, they've got a midweek game on the Tuesday, a cup game, they play some other players in there, they lose another match, fans get frustrated, players lose that a bit more confidence. So I'm one of those believers is keep playing players when the team's doing well.
Well, that's what happened in your era. That's what happened in your day.
Well, it did, and I know times change.
Yeah.
But if you look at all the top teams, you never see Messi missing football matches unless he's injured. But you don't, do you? To say you play too many games nowadays, and etc. etc. But Messi always plays. Ronaldo always plays. So if they're capable of doing it, other players are capable of doing it, and it gives them that bit more confidence, because players can lose confidence easily if they're not being picked.
But that doesn't necessarily apply to who you would consider to be Sheffield Wednesday's prime players. Fernando Forestieri comes in and out. And yet you've got to say, Andy, that despite the rotation, which some people don't like, the results have been very, very good and in the main pretty consistent going for some time now.
Yeah, outstanding. I think Sheffield Wednesday's start to the season probably is a C+, and it's fast becoming a B, and it might get a little bit better if they beat QPR at the weekend. Carlos Carvalho is clearly quite concerned about fatigue, the fatigue that presents itself within the English game, and the high intensity energy that he wants to see from the Forestieris of this world, and whether they can do that week in, week out. I mean, Barry Bannon didn't play at Cardiff last night because he'd played for Scotland a couple of times, looked tired and was out of position anyway at Huddersfield, didn't have a great game by his own admission, so he's just left him out. I suspect in part that's also Carlos Carvalho proving to the players, look, there are no undroppables. Terry's right about when you get to a successful stage of the season, you can pretty much name the team. And do you know what? For the final third of last season, that was true of Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah. So come February, it might be a different policy, may it not. Even up to maybe the Huddersfield game, I think Wednesday fans might have thought that there are a couple of undroppables. Forestieri was one, Bannon and Lee the other two. Lee's more often than not will play. There's not that rotation there.
No.
But
and
when he works,
always play too if he was fit.
If he wants to, yeah. And but they've got excellent goalkeepers there. Should he need pulling away from the firing line from time to time, so Carlos is trying to manage the squad as best he can. Rotation has worked. I mean, away from South Yorkshire, Benitez did it quite well, didn't he? But I wonder when we get to March whether we'll start to see a bit more regularity in the team. Yeah. And Carlos does like to pick a team to play an opposition. So the opposition, the team that played Huddersfield for a reason was that team. And yesterday, it was for a reason, it was the team that played Cardiff.
Pretty good result. I think most people would have taken a point in advance of that. That was probably a decent result for both teams, and it keeps things ticking over nicely. It isn't singing the blues. It's "We're on our way back" is the song of the moment from the Owls fans. Do you think they're right?
Yeah, I do think they're right. I think Carlos has brought a new dimension of football to it, and I think he's right about this fatigue bit. But on the continent, you know, you only get one league which is popular. So if you're in Spain, there's only one team, one league in Spain, whereas in England we've got 4 leagues, which is competitive. You know, I mean, I've heard them talk about if they didn't play football over Christmas, it'd help our national team. I think that's so poor, it's untrue. It's the competitiveness of our league which is the problem. You can take Exeter, go up to Liverpool and get a result. You know, and I know the chop and change the team, but part of it is right what he's saying, but part of it, I think the more you can play a consistent team, you know, you will go on runs of 17, 18 games, which are going to win you leagues and get you promotions.
Yeah, can I just put something to you, because you started as a winger, and then you drifted inside, and during your best days, I think certainly the ones that we saw at Sheffield Wednesday, you played almost as a striker or a second striker off Andy McCulloch. Adam Reach, Sheffield Wednesday's record signing, last night at Cardiff, and Andy was there, was picked as a striker, front two there, alongside Hooper. And from a distance, not seeing the game, I could understand why. You know, he's got a bit of directness and pace to him. What do you think? Do you think it can work for before we go to Andy? Do you think it can work for Adam Reach? Do you see him moving inside or what?
Yes, and I'll give the reason for that. As a young kid, I played not as a striker, but I was allowed to go and play where I wanted to play. And I didn't like playing out on wing. I never played on wing. And because of my pace, Maurice Setters put me out there. And I always wanted to play up front. And Brian Clough said to me one day, I'm going to play you through the middle. Right? Now, going through the middle, you can go left to right. You know, you said, well, you can go left to right on wing. You can't, because they'll double up on you and they'll treble up on you sometimes and they'll force you back.
Yes.
Where playing through the middle, you're going more direct. You're going to be more direct, and you can go either. You can go either way. There's not that much cover on it really when you're playing that way. So, I think players what's got good balance, good control, like Arsene Wenger did with Thierry Henry, playing through the middle. I mean, Henry struggled for many years in Italy, as well as in France, until Arsenal played him through the middle. And look what he became. He became a world-class player. But his touch was good, his pace was good, and his confidence was good. So I look at players what's capable of doing things on the ball. I would play them in the rightful positions, not out of way, you know, up and down players.
And what do you think of Reach? I mean, some eyebrows raised about the size of the fee, £5 million, I think, going up to 7, record signing. Do you see him being a success?
I do see him being a success. The more you can play with better players, the easier it becomes. The more football you can play with the tempo, the easier it becomes. Once you start to slow it down, people get into position and it forces you backwards. You know, we tend to do that a lot in England, whereas the Continentals will play with the tempo. I know we all talk about Barcelona, but at the end of the day, we do need to start to play with a bit more tempo and a bit more quickness about our football.
Brilliant. We're coming on to Terry's beef now, and we'll get him to elaborate on that after I've just checked what Andy Giddings thought of Adam Reach as a striker and whether he thinks there's legs in it going forward.
I do actually, and all the attributes that Terry's mentioned, I can add to that by also saying a little bit of size, because he's not a small unit either. No. So there's another reason why Adam Reach in a central role will work. I actually thought he was a bit smaller when they'd signed him, but when you see the player out there on the pitch, he almost ticks all boxes, and the freedom that he should have been afforded last night by Cardiff City, he was, and the 4, 5, 6, 7 runs that he made from a slightly deeper position really did help Sheffield Wednesday last night. Enhanced though when Forestieri came on. Abdi looked a little lost in a slightly more disjointed first half performance last night. Wednesday enjoyed more of the ball. Perhaps we'll just have to get used to that, whether they win, lose or draw anyway. But once Cavalial had tinkered slightly with the team across half-time, then we saw Reach come into his own a little more, aided and abetted by Forestieri, who spent more of his time on the left-hand side. And as a result, you had a a unit, as a man who's a bigger guy with all the skills, tricks and attributes of a winger. So that in prospect sounds good. The one thing that did frustrate me about last night is the way that they wanted to rotate the forward players, midfielders and forwards across. There were quite a lot of times when Hooper, the natural striker, might have been 10, 15 yards inside the Cardiff half, when if it had have worked, and I dare say brilliantly, he should have been on the edge of the box and there to put the chances away. But as it happened, it was a good performance. They've kept ticking on. But Reach, played well.
As a striker,
played well last night. And for me, played well at Huddersfield in a different role as well. So
If I elaborate on all that, if you look at George Best, he was classed as a winger. Then he was allowed to play up front and play with freedom. Francis Lee, when I was growing up, so Cruyff was a winger, allowed to come to play midfield and to be able to go where he wanted to go. So the technical players all seem to be on the right, on the left-hand side of the field, those wingers as such. Yes. But if managers thought about them playing through the middle, they might get a bit more success out of it.
Yeah, you're almost wasting them being that wide, aren't you?
Yes.
Because there are times, particularly with Adam Reach, but they're just not finding him. I've seen games up there this season. He's in oceans of space.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
They're not finding him.
Well, it's the English disease, isn't it? We were talking about just before we came on air, technically gifted, superb players that they didn't want to alter the formation of the team to maybe play them more centrally. We were talking about Glenn Hoddle. Scroll forward 15 years, you can add Joe Cole to that. There are others, plenty of others.
It's the bee in Terry's bonnet. The floor's yours. We've got 3 minutes to the break.
I'm looking at our academies and are we producing enough quality footballers for our national team and for our leagues. And I look at it, there is more and more coaches in our game what's not really played the game. Now, and I understand some of our ex-pros failing as managers, and I do understand that. And I look at that, right, are they strong enough to make tough decisions? Some of them are not. But if you look at all the continental top players go into the academies, helping out in the academies, right, what we're looking for is athletes. Right? Now, and I've heard them talk about in academies, they're looking for big, strong, athletic type of footballers, and we will teach them how to play football. No wonder why we've not progressed. You know, we're still playing channel balls. I see it on a Sunday morning when I go watch academy teams up and down the country. You know, we have got to get coaches, English coaches, into our game to teach these players how to play with a tempo and a pace in the game, and interchange and into movement.
Rather than this pointless possession that we're seeing the professionals in all divisions playing, but not so much in the Premier League because you've got some technique there, but lower down, it's going across the back, cross the back, cross the back. Rotherham United this season when I've seen them, and then it ends up with an aimless forward ball. So what was the point?
How many English managers have we got in the Premier League now? You know, probably our Portsmouth, and he's wanting to play football. How many would go on the continent and get a job on the continent?
How many would want to? Andy's got to be in his bonnet about that.
I think there's two different strands to that, isn't there? You're absolutely right to point out the handful of coaches that have gone over there. And there is a slight difference in role and expectation between coach and manager, of course.
Yes.
But how many coaches who have no real intention of ever becoming the manager, the head man, how many of those are going over to the continent to learn the tricks of the trade and working over there, rather than just going over there for a couple of days to see what they do, come home, forget about it, and it's no use whatsoever?
Is that because we're stubborn? You know,
absolutely. I think we're stubborn. I think we're insular. And I think we're exceptionally arrogant.
Right. We've got strong. We're looking for strong, open atom players. Yeah. You know, you don't win a war by guns go blazing in.
No, and you're suggesting
you've got a strategy. What to think about? How are you going to do it? How are you going to beat these teams?
Every 2 years, we seem to have this almost shock that little old whoever has taken on our national team and either lost narrowly or beaten them. And
this national,
because we're so insular, it's unbelievable.
This national bit, I'll tell you what the UEFA have done. They've made that the small teams play the bigger teams, so we can get, you know, the likes of Germany into and I'll take that back about you because they are a successful country.
We qualify every time.
We qualify because we beat. Listen, Alan, any one of us could qualify with the teams we have to play against.
Tell you what, 20 seconds now to the break. So we've left more because we're going to talk about where the investment in football is going into big name managers, salaries and coaches, where it should go to grassroots coaches. more attractive to bring them in. Loads more to say on the local scene with Terry Curran and Andy Giddings and James Gregg in about 5 minutes. See you then.